Why do we use the word good as we use it as like a qualitative statement on the scale of like poor to excellent, but good is a moral term. And so like, was that a good movie? No, it was still probably pretty sinful. Like it wasn't like holy, it wasn't good, but it was well done, But why do we say good for everything?
Why do we pronounce it good?
Why did you get him started on this, John? You should know better. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. Now I gotta clear my voice here.
Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, and it's flu season.
Yeah. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
I'm David.
I'm John.
All right, we're going here. So, the first thing I want to... Man, I'm sorry.
What in the world?
My voice is still getting over being sick.
We're all in here ready to go, and you apparently have not taken the proper precautions.
I do have cough drops, but I didn't want to put them in.
What kind of cough drops do you like?
What do you have?
These are Halls, which are not my favorite. I like Ricola better, but my wife bought these. These are strawberry Halls.
You got to do like the lemon honey.
Is it bad to put one in?
Well, do it.
I mean,
horrible decision.
I can't believe you just did that.
I don't like that. Why talk?
I do agree with you that Ricola are better.
Ricola are better, yeah.
For sure.
Yes.
I don't know which brand of like the essential oils was, but one time someone gave me one of them, and it was like a perfect cube. Best cough drop I've ever used.
Really?
And I don't normally buy into that stuff.
When did the whole essential oils craze start?
Like 2010-ish, I think.
So
really
for most of the world's existence, there were no essential oils.
Well, there had to be.
Does that call into question whether or not they're essential?
So they're not essential, but I think they existed for a long time. They just got popular. Someone marketed them in a way that they got to the millennials.
Essential actually just like as in essence. I think
essential.
They make you think that they're essential, but they're really just saying they're essence.
I think the word essential doesn't mean anything anymore.
Essentially, it doesn't.
It's been essentially ruined.
You're offending all of those essential oil people. They're not as crazy as they used to be.
It's literally not an essential word.
It's not. No.
Okay.
All right. Well, speaking of something that's essential at Christmas time, Christmas movies. You talked about a little bit on Sunday, so I thought we would determine amongst us the best Christmas movie ever made.
Okay. Wow.
I think
made.
Very subjective. So amongst us, because I think it depends on it partly depends on your age, right? Because what you grew up on is probably what you're going to prefer.
So, what was hard about this is like the idea of picking what's the best Christmas movie is hard because there's several movies that I have to watch every season.
Yeah.
Like,
what is your one go-to, like, this is one I want to, like, I have to make sure we watch this one, or I want to start with this one?
What if we don't have one of those? Like, what? I mean, I do have my movie in my mind, but to me, like, I don't...
Then you should not be giving your opinion if you don't have it. That's what I'd say.
So if you're basically asking if we got to pick one Christmas movie.
If we got to pick one, what would we pick?
Yeah. What is your go-to...
Christmas Story.
Christmas movie. Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Okay, give us a why.
It's it was like my dad's favorite Christmas movie growing up, so we watched it like every year. So it's the one that carries the most like nostalgia and like.
Didn't they redo it?
Too. So
like they did a sequel.
They did a sequel. It's a Christmas Story Christmas.
Yeah. And they're older.
Yeah, it's good. It's enjoyable, but it's not like it 100% is just trying to capture nostalgia berries and. Yeah. Go off that.
The funny thing about that movie is it really, the plot of it's not great.
No, there's not.
It's basically a bunch of vignettes tied together.
It's a...
My favorite scene is when they have to change the tire in the car.
Yeah. What I love about the movie is as a kid, I didn't get the fudge scene. Yeah. But I didn't say fudge until I was like older, and then I was like, "Oh, that's way funnier than like." Yeah. It's like, what's the big deal? What do you say, chocolate?
Yeah,
Fragile.
I like that movie. That's not my movie.
It's not necessarily.
So my movie is gonna lose. But I have to give it a little bit of. Yeah, I mean, I like the old movies, right?
Yeah. Which one?
So
you're talking like Frosty, or are you talking like?
So I really like White Christmas,
Okay.
except there's a couple of the scenes that I hate.
Yeah.
So like if I can fast forward it, then I'm good. So
is it a musical?
It is.
Okay.
And
That's why I haven't really seen it.
I hate people who watch the movie will know this. I hate the choreography scene.
Yeah. Is that Bing Crosby in
It
that?
is, and Danny Kaye.
He's got a good voice.
Yeah, I like all of Bing Crosby's stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, with that
Is
qualification,
his name really Bing?
I think it is. Yeah.
What?
I would say I think you also make the argument with White Christmas that it is the like the pinnacle of classic Christmas movie. Like everything, like it's not just that it's better. It was like it's the definer of the genre. You know, like it's not just that it was earlier than the rest, but it like a lot of the Christmas tropes and the imagery that people have with Christmas actually come out of White Christmas. So I think there's something to say about it having that spot because it just had that big of an impact on a cultural level.
Yeah. So little tidbit of trivia is that White Christmas is actually not the first movie in which Bing Crosby sings White Christmas.
Oh.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's another Christmas movie that he sings White Christmas in before White Christmas.
And it was so good that they're like, we need to make a whole
White
movie
Christmas
around this.
is
Say, it's beginning to look like
White Christmas is the first color movie in which he does it. The previous one is black and white.
That's really interesting.
So it's right at that line between when they switched from black and white to color. So just there you go.
When that happened, what was it like?
When they switched over.
When the TV switched over.
So actually, true
I think that's
story
before
is,
David's time.
but we actually had a black and white TV before we had a color TV in my house.
That's
so,
not surprising at all.
So that's we did have that moment, but it's not like we watched anything on TV. Mr. Rogers, that was about all we were allowed to watch. What about what's the Jimmy Stewart movie?
It's a Wonderful
Life. Is that your movie?
So I would say that was like before Kids was my movie because that's like my dad liked that movie, and when I was little, we had a theater in Akron called the Civic Theater, which it's very similar to the Victoria Theater, but I think a nicer version of it. Like there were like moving clouds on the ceiling and stars, so it was like really special when we got to go there. So we went at Christmas time, they would play that movie and we would get to go get popcorn and, go late at night and all this stuff. So it was kind of a big deal for us. They do, that kind of thing. So like as an adult before Kids, I would say that. Now I would say Home Alone is my favorite all-time Christmas movie.
I know a bunch of people who Home Alone, it's not just their favorite, it's like their favorite movie.
Yeah. I know people like that too.
It's really interesting.
I think it has all the pieces and parts to be a great movie. It's got some plot twists. Yeah. It has interesting characters, some character development, a lot of tension throughout it. So, like, it's a very watchable movie beyond just being a Christmas movie. And you got Macaulay Culkin, who is very iconic role in that. So
I think I've only seen Home Alone once, and it was way back when it first came out on video. So like when it came out of the theaters, came out on video, watched it then. I don't think I've watched it since.
Yeah.
Not that I hated it or anything. It's just
I didn't start watching it again until I had kids, and then I kind of
we never watched it with our kids.
We tried it with Ezra. We got like 15 minutes in. We're like, he's not old enough yet. And we turned it off.
Yeah. Well, so I thought you were gonna say Christmas Vacation because that's what you said on.
Well, the three that I put on the screen.
You put on the screen. Okay.
For sure, I'd pick Christmas Vacation.
I wouldn't I like that one, but that one is like even a step above. Like some of them, like there's some very suggestive moments in.
Well,
Christmas
it's certainly
Vacation.
not an upright movie
for kids. I'm just saying for kids.
Yeah,
right.
I would say
adults can make their own choices. Kids, you're putting them in front of the screen.
There's a category of movies that like are movies I want to watch every Christmas, and it's in that. But I don't think of it for family Christmas movie night.
No, not at all.
But
no, you shouldn't. You should not show it to your kids.
That's a movie Marianne and I watched together. But when our kids were growing up, Elf was our big.
Elf.
That was
that's
the one we watched.
Elf's on our list also.
The
Jingle All the Way. Anybody?
Never
Arnold
seen
Schwarzenegger. It's actually really good. Sinbad's in it too.
One of my favorites that I think is super underrated is Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's so funny.
So here's one that we really like. This is probably for Marianne and I. This is the one we will watch this every year. Is Four Christmases.
Oh yeah.
And we'll really watch it solely for one scene, which is the church scene.
I talked to someone on Sunday that said they have 5 Christmases they have to go to.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
All in one day.
I think it's over 2 different days, but still very close together.
Yeah.
See, when my family still lived in Missouri, it was great because we would do like Becca's family stuff on Christmas Day, and then like sometime after Christmas that week, we would go down to Missouri, and so it was kind of spread out.
Yeah.
But now all of our families are here, so it's like we'll do this at the morning, this in the afternoon, and feel real nasty the next day.
We've never had to do that, and I'm very glad.
Andre, what's your take?
About my favorite Christmas.
Yeah, your favorite.
He's just like, I hate Christmas.
I hate Christmas.
He's like the Grinch.
You won't like my favorite Christmas movie, but it's Elf.
Elf. What? We like it.
no,
We all
I
like
agree.
it.
Yeah, great
We're all
Christmas
with
movie.
Elf.
Yeah.
I get a lot of hate for it.
Well,
You- what?
So here's the problem with Elf.
That
is
ranks
a
high.
lot of people still see it as like this new movie, but it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's officially merited the Christmas classic,
Oh, for sure.
status because it has 20 years of longevity is plenty to get in that category.
Right. What's the best way to spread Christmas cheer?
Watching out, singing loud.
There it is. Sing out loud for all to hear. See?
It's very quotable. It hits all the Christmas movie
It
marks.
does. It does.
So this is one that I don't think anyone else has ever seen, but it's one we watch every year at my house. It's Annabelle's Wish.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
It was a
never
made-for-TV movie. It's like under an hour, and the whole premise is there's a cow that wants to be a reindeer, and it's
I totally understand why that's a favorite in your house.
Yeah.
it's awesome. It was made like in '97 or something like that. It's pretty
right.
old.
All right. Shall we move on to some
Moving
other
on.
questions?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a peace theme going on.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Today.
see why this came up.
Coming into off the sermon on Sunday.
Yep.
And we are in week 2 of our Christmas
Just finished
series.
week 2, yep.
We just finished week 2 of our Christmas series, leading up to will to be determined. You have to find out what the story's going to be on Christmas Eve. It's about Jesus being born.
We'll be talking about the Christmas story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It'd be
everyone.
really awesome
I think
if you
everyone
just like pivot and said,
pivot.
"We're talking about Moses today."
Yeah,
We're gonna
should do that one.
we're gonna do Ehud.
My people.
Ehud on Christmas. Are there any other like references to Christmas time? You know, later on. No.
I don't know.
References.
I don't understand it.
Passover stuff that.
Oh,
Well,
Wait,
obviously
what?
Passover. Never mind. Let's move on. Just forget I said that.
I'm completely
Okay.
befuddled.
First question here is: would you rather have peace on earth, a piece of pie, or peas and carrots?
so 2 of those sounded the exact same to me.
Yes,
Piece on earth and a piece of pie are
the same thing.
sound like the same.
Yeah. Or peas and carrots.
Yeah.
So it's a clever question, Steve.
Thank you.
Nice little wordplay there.
Yeah. What would you rather have?
I mean, I feel like I have to say peace on earth, but pie sounds great.
Is
so.
that one of like the best hopes for the new year? Is peace on earth? Like, can you trump anything with that? If you're wishing for peace on earth, is there anything like?
Can you get peace on earth with Trump?
We're not gonna go there today.
It depends who you talk to. That's all I'm gonna
I was
say.
thinking,
The answer to that question
and
is
the
no.
Trump show.
There will not be peace on earth until the Prince of Peace
Yeah.
returns.
Yeah.
So we can hope for that in the new year, but I think if you're hoping for peace on earth, what you're hoping for is the return of Christ.
Peace on earth is a weird concept too, because when we think of peace, we think of just the absence of conflict, but that's not actually like true, like spiritual deep peace, which is things being restored into their right and proper order unto God. Right.
We
And
should
so-
really let him see the questions before, so he doesn't like try to answer.
They don't answer ahead of time.
the next questions. Yeah.
So but I was just saying, I think it's great to like want peace, and we should want conflict and the things in the world that are broken to not be so broken. But
Yeah.
like you're saying, it doesn't come until true peace doesn't happen until
I really thought this question would lead more to a discussion of pie.
pie. Yeah.
Yeah.
You thought? I mean, but who is on it? Who's gonna?
What's your favorite pie?
I'm not a pie guy. I don't really love pie.
I don't know if you're American anymore.
So I know. So okay. So there are some I do
chicken
like
guy.
pie. like I like a good apple pie. Who doesn't? I like pumpkin pie. This is funny. Is I never had this until I came here. Have you guys ever had cheddar cheese on your pie? Apple
On
pie.
apple pie? I've had that.
Someone tried to get me to do that, and I tried it.
It was okay.
It wasn't terrible, but I
right.
wasn't left saying this is amazing, and I was still left with the question: why would you do that?
Who did it the first time?
Why would you do something like
the
that?
first person that said, you know what would really make this apple pie better? It's not whipped cream. It's cheddar cheese.
I have a suggestion on what happened. Is it was leftovers, and there wasn't much left in the fridge, and they had cheese and pie, and they thought, you know what, we'll just put it together.
I don't think it's that weird because like there's lots of different types of cheese that you put like a spread, a jam.
Yeah, but it's like American cheese.
No, it's cheddar.
It should be cheddar.
Well, like
cheddar.
I did it. The person that gave it to me was like one of those like slices out of clear cellophane.
They're
no,
evil.
that's a terrible idea.
They're evil.
That was
That's
not
why
good.
It's disgusting.
No, it's got to be cheddar, and the sharper the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I did it wrong.
Because you want that strong flavor to peek out over the sweetness.
Okay.
Is what he said.
Chocolate pie is where it's at.
Coconut cream pie.
I like coconut. There's not really a pie I dislike. Rhubarb, I would think is kind of.
I actually like rhubarb pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lady in my very first church way up in northern Michigan that made just a smashing rhubarb pie.
I've only had it one time and I didn't like it.
I bet you can get some good pie in
think,
Michigan.
Yeah,
I think she raised the rhubarb herself.
What is rhubarb?
It looks like celery.
When I hear rhubarb pie, I think of like the
Did you make a celery
the
pie?
bars they put in concrete.
Just don't.
It looks the same.
No. That's just.
It does look like
Have
a
you ever
stalk, right?
eaten just rhubarb by itself and not
No, I don't even know what it is.
It looks like celery. I mean, that's what it looks
It's
like.
a root. Is it a root?
No, it's not a root. It looks like celery is what it
Why do
looks
we say
like.
root? Why don't we say root?
I don't know.
Because this is Ohio.
Do you say root?
Why do we say root?
I know some
but
people
not
do.
good.
Right, we're back to the good. The good.
Good and root.
So no one really answered our question, though.
Roof what was the question?
or roof?
Do you want peace on earth? I mean, obviously it's
absolutely.
peace on earth
Absolutely.
over a piece of pie.
We
Like
desire peace on
I
earth.
can get pie anytime.
And if you
I
told me
want.
if I denied myself a piece of pie that we could have peace on earth, I would choose to not have that piece of pie.
Clearly you're not going to choose peas and carrots.
I might.
Clearly I will not choose
I do
peas
like
and carrots.
peas and carrots. Like if I'm gonna.
Well, that's the question. Would you rather have peas or would you rather have carrots?
Ooh, peas.
Peas, yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, the pie versus peas and carrots is actually a tough call.
What?
Well, I mean, you could have both. You
Chicken
could
pot
have
pie.
Chicken pot pie.
Perfect. Shepherd's pie.
I got
I
no
don't love
problem
shepherd's
with
pie.
that.
I love
no
shepherd's pie.
problem with
Chicken
that.
pot pie is
Shepherd's
my favorite.
pie is right up my
Chicken
alley.
pot
Like I
pie.
said, you put mashed potatoes with a bunch of other things, I'm sold. I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a restaurant in Michigan called the Traverse City Pie Company.
Yes,
And their chicken
good?
pot pie.
Oh, really?
is
Okay.
just so
We
fantastic.
seriously
Thought
need to
about
stop
going
talking about
Yeah.
food.
I know,
before we have
I'm getting
lunch.
hungry.
Yeah, it's
All right, well, I'll move on then. So, John tried to answer this question earlier. John, we
Sorry.
appreciate you stealing
Good
the thunder
job,
here. Why is there so little peace in the world? In general, currently.
Well, I mean, it comes back to sin, right? It's like we're sinful people, and when we live in our flesh and over sinful things, we're going to naturally do things like covet and want things other people have, and that causes us to, get ourselves into things like wars and conflicts. By nature, our flesh is discontent and covets what others have, and so we're just going to have a lot of conflict in that, and then we're not going to be able to handle that conflict appropriately because we'll respond. We meet sin with sinful attitudes, and and that just creates more and more conflict, and that's on the micro level of individuals to the macro level of nations.
Yeah.
It's a priority question. We all prioritize ourselves first, and that's naturally what we do. And if I prioritize myself over others, that's going to bring conflict. The problem is when I prioritize myself over everything, which is what I'm prone to do, that always leads to internal conflict too, because I have my flaws and I don't like myself. And I see that, and I can't get past that, and so it just wrecks us in so many different ways when we prioritize ourselves over everything else. But it's so hard not to do that, and so peace has to come from a place where I'm prioritizing something other than myself.
Yeah. And it also seems like there's certain parts of the world that have a lot of unrest. And,
Right.
And we live in a place that we don't have a whole lot of countries on our border, but at least the ones that are on our borders, we seem to, for the most part, get along with them. But that's not true everywhere. There's a lot of places that, do not live in peace and have a lot of conflict.
Well, if you think about it, there's two extremes that happen in other parts of the world. Most parts of the world, people, again, we're going back to priorities. They prioritize themselves and their own culture, and they're very selfish with culture. So it's like, you have to be like us, and then what do? We fight with the people who aren't like us. And so you have that, or what you end up with is this authoritarian rule that makes, it feels peaceful because there's no conflict, but it's all subversive.
Well, I mean, there is something going on in the world right now with the Assad
regime
you see how that, Syria.
And it's the same in China.
Yeah.
And it's, the old Soviet Union.
That's the thing that's like, someone could look at someplace like North Korea and say that's a very peaceful nation.
Right.
But I would not say that's peace. That's controlled. That's domination. It's,
okay, this is a good question. Then, what is peace?
Peace is not the lack of conflict, right? It's. I mean, we think of it as the lack of conflict.
Lack of resolution. Then,
peace,
correct into its right place, right? So there are bad resolutions to things, which we would say aren't peaceful. It's when things are restored to their proper order.
It's alignment.
It's alignment. Yeah.
Peace is alignment. So when I'm aligned with myself internally, I'm aligned with my neighbor externally. We're going into the next question here. Yeah. And I'm aligned with God, eternally.
Okay. Well, let's just go into the next question here.
Serious for next year?
Yeah.
What's the secret formula to find peace in life? We're talking about peace, regionally in the world, but I think that there's probably similarities to finding peace in the world and peace in life.
A big piece of it is submission, right? For me to experience internal peace, I have to decide to what I'm going to align my life to, what I'm going to submit, right? Yeah. And so as a Christian, I believe that I find peace by submitting to God's way over my way. And when I don't is when I have that conflict, because what I want and what God wants often don't align naturally. So to find peace, I choose to submit my will to God's, and in doing so, I'm able to surrender that stuff that is creating that conflict, and I find peace. So I think that's a huge part of it, is just that willingness to say, nope, I'm going to choose what God wants over what I want in this situation.
Yeah. I hinted at this on Sunday that I think there's a really close tie between grace and peace. That for me to be at peace with God, I need to receive grace from him. And receiving that grace carries a lot of different assumptions. The first assumption is that I'm not worthy of a relationship with him, because that's what grace is, right? Grace is not earned or deserved. If I feel like I deserve a relationship with God, then when he gives it to me, that's, he's paying me. It's not giving grace. But grace means I recognize I fall short and I need to ask him for help. And when I do that, he extends grace to me. Now I can live at peace with him. And then that same principle then applies into my relationship with others, is that if I want to live at peace with my brother, I have to extend grace, right? Yeah. So I have to be willing to say there are times when what you're doing or who you're being is out of alignment with who I think you should be or whatnot, but I'm going to extend grace anyways so that we can be aligned and we can be at peace.
So would you say the beginning of finding lasting peace starts with a relationship with God?
I think it does. I think true peace has to begin internally, but internal peace can't happen until I have eternal peace. Yeah. Right?
It's like there's a name for Jesus that has to do with this. The Prince of Peace or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Until I'm right with God, there's always that nagging thought or question or anxiety about the future. And that can never be resolved. And people don't like to acknowledge this or admit it, but if you don't know what happens after you die, that bothers you. People are bothered by it. And, people stay awake at night wondering what's next. And they try to convince themselves, well, there's nothing next, whatever. But they know that's not true because eternity is written on our hearts. Yeah. So until I can resolve that, it's really hard for me to live at peace.
So the previous Sunday was hope, right?
Yes.
And I feel like that when you find hope, you also find peace.
Correct.
Because you can't have peace unless you have hope in the future. If you don't have hope in the future or hope in your eternal destination, it's hard to find peace.
The most unpeaceful place that you can find yourself in is believing that it's up to you to figure this out. And so when I don't have a hope in what Christ can do and hope in that God is in control of the future, I believe that I'm in control and that I have to do this. And I am not enough to bring about peace in something. I'm actually not in control. And we internally deep down know we're not in control, and it causes us to feel fear and anxiety and chaos, but somehow we still try to control. So then we, on top of that fear, anxiety, and chaos, we wear ourselves out. We exhaust ourselves. That's not peace. But when I say I have a hope that is in someone who is greater than me, someone who is in control, and I have allowed myself to be transformed internally, I have given those anxieties, those fears over to him. That's where I find that deep peace that lets you experience peace in the midst of chaos around you.
And once you have hope and once you have peace, where does that lead you?
Joy.
So that's this Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So I also think along with it is that you can't have peace if you aren't content, right? So I think contentment goes along with that. You can have peace and not quite understand contentment, but I think contentment absolutely leads to this, like the lasting peace that you have, because if you look to, which I think is a big part of the human condition, is looking to what others have. We talk about this a lot on here. I think it's one of the secrets to life is being content with exactly what God has given you. It's not saying if I only had this or if I only had that, then I could feel like I'm successful, that I have what's missing. That looking to saying, like you said this on Sunday, God has given me everything that I need. Like that's what he does for the church. He does the same thing for us individually and personally. That God has given us everything. And when you can accept that, you can say, okay, even if I feel like I want what someone else has, I know that actually right now God has given me exactly what I need. That leads to being content, which helps to be at peace with the world and others and God.
Sure. Yeah, that's Philippians 4. I mean, Paul says that that's the secret, right, is to be content. So, absolutely. And that leads to joy.
It
which
does
is also
lead to joy.
Philippians 4.
And that's our teaser for next week.
That's our teaser for next week.
Stay tuned for joy. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on the Gathering Greenhouse. Keep it real, keep it rooted, and we'll catch you next time.